Hello friends, this is Hedda. Today I am reviewing a really fun and unique notebook and I hope you'll come along. The notebook is from a small business in Austria called Takkti. If you wonder why I have a band-aid on my finger, that's because I bought my boyfriend roses, as one does, and I managed to stab myself with a staple when I unwrapped it. The roses were nice though. Anyway, back to Takkti. Takkti was kind enough to send over this notebook and lots of washi tape for me to try. This video is not sponsored, but I do have an affiliate code with Takkti, so if you want to get your own after watching this video, you'll find my discount code in the description box below. This review will follow the same pattern as my previous notebook reviews, which means that I'll start with some basic info about the notebook, and then I'll do a pen test where I see how the paper holds up to different kinds of pens and markers and paint, and after that I'll talk about environmental responsibility and Takkti as a brand. At the end I'll share my overall opinion on the notebook. I posted a little unboxing video on my Instagram a couple of weeks ago in which you saw me unbox this notebook and the washi tapes. A lot of people were commenting on how great it was that there was no plastic in the packaging at all, and I agree that that's really awesome and not something that you see very often. The notebook cover is made from cork and the notebook is kind of modular. Basically, you can choose if you want one or two notebooks inside the notebook. It can fit one booklet with 240 pages or two booklets with 120 pages in each. As you can see, I went for the second option and got one white booklet and one black booklet. I just think that this is such a fun idea and it lets you carry two notebooks within one cover. The paper is 135 GSM for the white booklets and 120 GSM for the black booklets. Both have 5mm dot grid and they are unnumbered. Something that I really like is that there are middle page markers on each page. In the middle of the page there's a cross instead of a dot, and there are lines on the outer grid to show where the middle of the grid is. You'll easily see where to split the page into 2 or 4 if that's what you're going for. The notebooks don't come with anything extra unless you want it, and this is where the modularity really shows. If you want a pen loop, then you can buy this extra and attach it yourself. If you want a pocket on the inside of the cover, you can buy that as well. And if you want page markers, you can use the silk thread from the packaging and make one. I think that this is super clever and it shows that a lot of thought went into the design for these notebooks. Takkti sent me both the pen loop and the pocket, so I attached those myself and it was really easy to figure out. It didn't need a tutorial or anything. You basically just take the back of the tape off and then you just glue it into place. Making the page marker was also really simple, and they have a blog post on their website to explain kind of how to do it. You basically just need some washi tape. Cover and booklets retail for 39 euros, which is definitely on the pricier side, but wait until the end of the video before you decide if that's too much money or not, because I have some good arguments for why it's worth it. The booklets by themselves retail for 25 euros, and you can choose any combination of booklets, so you always get 240 pages, even if you get 2 separate booklets or one big booklet. There's an elastic band to keep the notebook together and it's really tight. Like when you take it off, it lies flat against the back rather than kind of hanging loose in the back like it does on a lot of other notebooks. So although this is just like a really small detail, I really appreciate that. You can also get 10% off with my affiliate code mochibujo10 if you ever want to make a purchase. Let's move on to the pen test. I didn't know what to expect since it's the first time I'm trying this paper and I've never owned a notebook with 135 GSM paper before. I started with my fountain pen as usual, and I finally got an ink refill for my fine platinum preppy pen. I've been using the extra fine for the past few notebook reviews, so I'm happy to have my fine pen back in business. I didn't experience any feathering and it was pretty smooth to write with, and I didn't experience any ghosting with this either. Next I went in with my highlighters, which also glided on very smoothly. I think they look really nice on the paper. There was a little bit of pooling of the ink at the end, but I can't really think of a reason why that would be the notebook's fault, and it's probably just because I store my highlighters vertically. I know, blasphemy. Next, I wanted to test some brush pens, and I got a couple of black ones out and 3 colored ones to test. I always like to test my Copic Gasenfude since it's the juiciest of my black brush pens. I made sure to overlap the colored markers so that I kind of put down 2 layers. I didn't experience any bleeding with any of these, and there's only a tiny bit of ghosting if you kind of hold the paper up, and this goes for the highlighters as well. Next up, I wanted to test my paint markers as usual. I tested with an acrylograph pen from Archer & Olive, and I also unearthed my Molotov liquid chrome marker, so I tested this one too. I went over twice on half of the pen test. There was a tiny bit of warping immediately after using the markers, but as I record this, a couple of days has passed and there's no warping now. Next up is a few random pens, some fine liners, gel pens, and ballpoint pens. I experienced some pooling of the pens again, which I thought was a bit unusual, and the ballpoint pen kind of feathered a bit. But I have to mention that I don't use this ballpoint pen for anything other than these notebook reviews, so it might just be some buildup of the ink, but I'm not sure. The next section is dedicated to alcohol-based markers, which I absolutely do not recommend using in your bullet journal unless you have a journalier stationary notebook. I used my Copic Sketch and the Leader Neopico color markers, and there was significant bleeding as expected. Lastly, I wanted to play a little with watercolors and gouache now that I finally have some proper gouache. I put down some watercolors first, which definitely warped the paper quite a bit as I tried to use a lot of water. I also used some gouache, both with a tiny bit of water and a lot of water, and there was warping from this too. But I will say that the warping has gone down a lot now after the paper has had a chance to dry completely. And there's also no ghosting from either the watercolors or the gouache. So it might not be so damaging, but it might be a bit annoying working with watercolors in this notebook because the water definitely makes the paper warp as you work with it. Since I chose to get one white and one black booklet, I of course have to test the black one as well. I'm not that experienced with black notebooks, so I just tested a few different pens and markers to see what would work. I started with the Molotov paint marker and a couple of acrylograph pens since I knew these would most likely show up being paint markers. I also tried my white jelly roll pen, which is what I would use to write with if I were to use a black notebook. I also wanted to try my Muji gel pens, but they didn't really show up like I hoped. But my colored mechanical pencils from Pilot showed up really well, and I didn't really expect that, so that was a happy surprise. The gouache looked quite nice on the paper as well, and it covered the dots completely. Although I don't have that many pens and markers that will show up on black paper, I tested what I could. Like I said before, Takkti also sent over her washi tapes for me to try, so I'll be swatching those in the white booklet while I talk about Takkti as a brand and their environmental responsibility. Takkti is a small business and it's run by a lovely woman called Mei Lin, and she's an architect based in Vienna in Austria. She's actually won 2 German design awards for these notebooks, and the designs are all inspired by architecture, which I think is really cool. On their website it says that their products are made from all natural materials and that there's no plastic in their packaging. The notebook covers are all made from cork, which is a natural material that is completely biodegradable. And what's great about cork is that if it's harvested correctly, it doesn't actually damage the tree. So it's kind of like shearing wool from a sheep. You don't have to cut down the entire tree to produce cork, which makes it very sustainable. I asked Maylin from Takkti what the cork is attached to, since I know that some cork fabric is made from polyester, but she said that it's all paper, so no polyester. The only non-natural material in these notebooks is some polyester thread in the elastic, and that's super impressive. The paper is FSC Mix certified, which means that it's made from a mix of FSC certified forests and recycled materials and or FSC controlled wood. And it also means that it can be recycled. And because the booklets are really easy to remove from the cork cover, it makes it super easy to recycle them properly. Oh, and the booklets are made at a factory in Germany that uses renewable energy and uses its own paper waste to make new paper. So especially if you live in Europe, these notebooks don't have to travel far to get to you, which I also think is a huge plus. Being a one-woman team, I'm really impressed with the care Takkti takes to ensure the products are sustainable, and I also really admire her openness about the materials and certifications and the process of creating the notebooks, because she's been able to answer every question that I had for her and was willing to talk about everything very openly. For me, this makes Takkti a trustworthy company, and I feel very confident that I'm holding a product that's easy on the environment and also a product that's very important to the designer. I think Takkti's notebooks are a great alternative for the environmentally conscious journalers and also for those who always run out of pages too quickly. I think that the modularity is super fun and interesting because you usually don't get these choices with the larger notebook brands. I also think that the amount of pages you get makes the notebook a great deal. You're getting 80 more pages than the standard 160 page notebooks. They currently have 3 cover designs to choose from and they're all made of cork. I'm so happy that this alternative is on the market because the Takkti notebooks both look and behave differently than very many notebooks on the market right now. It's kind of become the norm to have 160 GSM paper and solid color covers, and I love that too, so no shade on those notebooks. If you're interested in checking out Takkti's website and see what other notebook designs she has to offer, go to takkti.com or follow the affiliate link in the description box. And remember to use my discount code mochibujo10 if you ever want to make a purchase, as it helps me create content and supports my channel. And also thank you for subscribing to my channel and clicking the thumbs up button on this video. I hope that you enjoyed this notebook review and that you learned a little bit more about Takkti. Maybe you had never heard of Takkti before. And if you have tried their notebooks, please let me know in the comments what you think about them. If you watched this video all the way to the end, make sure to put a tree emoji in your comment. And other than that, I hope that you're all having a lovely day and I'll see you next time. Bye!